Hello, hello, hello. You caught me in my kitchen. I'm going to be making a cake today. It's going to be a mocha latte cake. Go to the channel. See if I can pull it to live. That way I can follow along with the comments on here. And interact that way if anybody pops on. So let me see if I can find video. Where it might be at. Here. Here we go. Mute this. Okay. Mute it. Okay. So I'm set up just in case anybody pops in for comments. I am set up that I can respond to comments. All right. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make a cake. This cake will be gluten-free. It also will be sugar-free. So if you are you eat along those lines, or you just want to try something, you maybe you just want to try it for the first time, this is a great recipe to use because chocolate's real forgiving. So usually you can get a chocolate cake to come out pretty good, even if you're cooking it with different flours. So I'm going to be using, I'm going to show you what I'm going to use, and then I will use it from my container. But I use the Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 baking flour. I find this one works out the best because it already has the xanthan gum and the correct mixtures of rice flour, potato starch, and the sorghum flour. So all of the different flours, when you're switching over from gluten-free baking and you start using a gluten-free flour, usually the reason why your stuff won't come out is because there's not that right protein ratio. With regular flour, you don't have to manipulate it. It kind of already has the right, the glutinous texture, but also the protein that responds to that as well, which causes that nice fluffy rise that you get and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times when you start baking gluten-free, you'll lose that rise, you'll lose that fluffiness of the cake. It'll come out more tight or more dense. If you tend to use more of your almond flours, your nut flours, all of your baking will come out dense. And it's because it doesn't have that rise in it, because it have that those different protein structures that allow them to rise. That's usually what will interfere if you're using different flours as far as like regular oat cake. So this flour I have found works the best. My cookies come out great. My cakes come out great. I have made, when I make my chili for my enchiladas, I use the flour in my sauce. I use this flour for gravy. It comes perfect. So this is the flour that I use, especially if you are making pancakes or anything like that. This stuff's awesome. So Bob's Red Mill for the flour. That's what I'll be using for flour. For sugar, it calls for sugar, of course, in a cake, right? So I am making this sugar-free. So because it's sugar-free, I'm going to be using a whole earth. This is erythritol and monk fruit. So this is a mix. What the mix does is it allows it to not have that overly cool taste that you will get with a lot of sweeteners. I don't use any other sweetener other than stevia and erythritol when I use a sweetener. And usually it's a mix. So this one is monk fruit and erythritol. So I do use monk fruit. Normally I will use the Lakanto. I got this one instead to try it. This one's more of like a raw sugar texture, I guess. But this is the sugar I'm going to be using. It is good for if you are sugar-free or you're keto, and it doesn't affect your blood sugar. Now that isn't 100% because everybody's body is a little bit different. So there's some people, even a artificial sweetener will cause your blood sugar to respond. So you have to make sure that you're monitoring it and seeing how much you respond to it. Hi, Rosie. Oh, yay. Hi, Chris. Welcome, guys. So this is the sweetener I'm using in the body of the cake. This one is the powdered sugar by Lakanto. I'm sorry, Lakanto. They make regular sugar. They make one that's like sugar in the raw, and then they also have the powdered sugar. They make several things. I even have a maple syrup that they make. But this is going to be the powdered sugar that I'm going to use for the frosting. Okay, so again, it's monk fruit and erythritol. So basically, if you didn't have powdered sugar and you had a lot of this, if you put this in a coffee grinder and buzz it till it's powder, you then have powdered sugar. It's not sugar. Okay, so those are the two I'm going to be using. The other item that it calls for, and I'm going to tweak it because I do a lot of that. I tweak recipes. I don't necessarily follow them to the letter, only when it comes to the measurements of the dry goods and the wet goods. That I stick to it, but I will tweak some of the ingredients sometimes. So this recipe calls for cocoa, right? Hershey's cocoa. I'm going to use cacao. It's healthier. It's not as rich as Hershey's is, but it's still going to taste like chocolate. So this is what I'm using just because it's healthier. And so that's the cocoa that I'm going to use. It's actually cacao, not cocoa. So that's what I'm going to be using for the cocoa when it calls for that. Another thing that I'm tweaking, and I encourage you to tweak as well in your kitchen, this recipe is asking for melted coconut oil. What's in the way? This is in the way. It's asking for melted coconut oil. I don't care for coconut oil in my baked goods. It's just me. I don't know if it's I can taste it or what, but I just don't care for it. I have for many, many years now, probably at least 20 years, I use olive oil. So you will see me use olive oil in all my cakes unless they call for butter, in which case I will put butter. But this one calls for oil, so I always put olive oil in my cakes that call for oil. Okay? Okay, just in case anybody's interested, this is the book that I got my recipe from. It is a gluten-free cake cookbook. My husband actually got me this so that I could still make him cakes when I first learned that I couldn't have gluten. He's now learning he can't have gluten. Worse than me, I would say we're equally the same as far as how we respond to gluten, but his is affecting his breathing. Mine attacks my intestine. His is affecting his breathing. So trying to make sure that I have things on hand that he can eat. And we're still trying to also tweak and find out what is actually causing him to respond so badly to the gluten. Because some things are not gluten, but he's still having a reaction. Okay. Anytime you start your cake, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Anytime you start your cake, you want to start off with your dry goods, okay, your dry ingredients. And the reason that you do that is because you want to make sure that all of your dry ingredients are incorporated together before you go adding them to the wet ones. Because if you don't, and you just took, say, a spoonful of baking soda and threw it into the cake batter, it might not distribute equally all over, and you'll get those sour spots in your cake. Okay, so that's the main reason that you will put your dry goods in a bowl and mix them with a whisk, and then add them to the mixer. Okay, so I'm going to start with this cake. So just so you know, that's what that's for my dry goods. I'm going to start at the top of the cake, and at the top of the cake, it's saying, I'm going to read it to you first, okay? Preheat your oven to 350. I did do that. My oven's already hot. I'm not going to be making cupcakes. This is talking about cupcakes. I'm not making cupcakes. I'm making a 2-layer cake. So then it wants you to, in a bowl, you put your paddle mixer in your mixer, which I've already done that. It wants you to combine your flour, your sugar, your cocoa powder, your baking powder, your baking soda. The recipe here calls for xanthan gum, but that's because this book teaches you how to mix your own flour. I'm using Bob's. It's already got xanthan gum in it, so you won't see me measure out xanthan gum. And salt, and mix on low to thoroughly combine. So I'm not going to put that in the mixer to combine it. I'm going to put it in the bowl to combine it. Okay. So first things first, I'm going to take and put the flour in. Flour is going to be 1 3/4 cup. So 1 3/4 cup. This measuring thing is half. There's half of a cup. And I'm probably going to need the bag out. There's 1 cup. Hey, babe. Making cake. Yes. And a video. Like. Yes. Okay. And you'll see I guesstimate. So there's 1 3/4. I'm an estimator. I do it a lot. Okay. And my pans, just so you know my pans, I don't grease and flour my pans. I use parchment. So I will show you how to do parchment as soon as it's time to put the dough in. Batter, whatever you call it. Okay, it wants 2 cups of sugar. So one of the things for me with the sugar substitutes, like the sweeteners, I call them sweeteners, I usually cut it down a little bit. So it calls for 2 cups, so I'm going to put 1 1/2 cups. That's just my preference. It's not that you have to do it. You can put it whatever it calls for, but I like to cut it down. And I don't know if you can see it, but this smoke that's in the air, what olive oil do you recommend? We've been using avocado oil. You can use avocado oil. You can use avocado oil. There's just, I think it's the MCTs in the coconut oil. There's something there when I cook with it, I don't care for it. Like, I don't know, I just don't care for it. But I've used olive oil, even when I used to make and sell tortillas, I made all my tortillas with olive oil. So I've been using olive oil in everything for, oh gosh, about at least 30 years. Dang. I've been using olive oil for a long time, babe. That just blew my mind. I forget how old I am sometimes. Olive oil, I'll show you. I get mine at Costco. And I get the organic extra virgin olive oil. Was that your package or my package? Eric's got pops, Rose. She's on here watching. Eric's got pops, Rose. Yeah, so I used to actually do a keto page on Facebook, but I haven't been on there much. And because I deviated away from keto, I tried to stay off my page as much. But so I'm just gonna try to do videos here because I need the videos. So I'm gonna do it here. So this is a gluten-free cake. It is a mocha latte cake. Mocha latte is the flavor. Okay, so I have my flour, I have my sugar. Now I'm gonna put the sodas. I have baking soda, baking powder, and the salt. Okay. I'll move this out of my way. All right, and the cocoa. And the cocoa, which I put over here. Okay. So those are gonna go into the bowl. Remember, all the dry ingredients are going in here first. We have 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. So this is a tablespoon, this is a teaspoon, this is a teaspoon. So I want 1 1/2 of baking powder. This is my baking powder. So 1 1/2 of baking powder. And then I want 1 1/2 of baking soda. Okay, so there's the baking powder. 1 1/2 of baking soda. I almost did two. That was going to be all bad, guys. All bad. It'd come out like a cracker. You do know that's what baking soda does, right? It'll turn it into a cracker if you put too much. All right. Cocoa powder, it wants 1 cup. So again, I'm using cacao instead of cocoa powder, and it's just because that's what I want to use. I do have the Hershey's powder, but I want the cacao because it's a healthier choice. So it won't be as rich as using Hershey's, but it's still chocolatey. Okay. There's the cacao. All right, so in the bowl, I have sugar, I have flour, I have cocoa powder, I have baking powder, I have baking soda, and then I need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So salt, if you want to know about salt, I can tell you some stuff about salt. Salt is not bad for you. Salt, everybody needs salt. You're made of salt. You have salt in your system. You need salt in your body for your levels to be right. It's sodium that you don't need in your body, especially the sodium that comes in your canned goods, in all your preservatives. That you don't need. Sodium you don't need. But salt is good for you. You could put a pinch of this salt in your coffee. You could put a pinch of this salt in your water, and it's going to be really good for your body. My personal preference is the Redmond's real salt. I know a lot of people use the pink Himalayan. That's awesome. Use it. But depending on where your Himalayan salt is sourced, it could have those contaminants from plastic and debris that ends up in the water supply there, wherever that salt's harvested. This was done in Utah. This is harvested in Utah from an ancient seabed that's never had pollution. So this right here, you're not going to get any kind of plastic residues in the salt or any other things that are like that in the salt. So Redmond's real salt, my recommendation, use whatever salt you want, but that is my recommendation as far as salt goes. I try to throw that out there. If I know about an item, I will throw it out there and let you know, the benefits of it. Okay, so I'm going to just mix my dry ingredients. Again, the purpose of that is so that you don't get like baking soda all in one bite. Okay, you don't want it all in one bite. So you want to mix your dry ingredients before you even put them into the mixer. Don't get too crazy or you'll throw it all over your kitchen. The grandbabies do that. Whenever I have the grandbabies in the kitchen, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. There's no clean as you go when you have them in the kitchen. It's more like clean up after every movement. Okay, so now all that's combined. That's all we're gonna do to that. All right. Now it wants to go into the actual mixer. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the eggs. Okay. I'm gonna put this aside over here by the mixer. Now it wants the eggs and all the liquid ingredients into a bowl. And I shouldn't have thrown my whisk in there. So it calls for 2 eggs. It does call for 2 eggs. All right, there's my eggs. It does call for the oil. So here's that olive oil. It is a 1/2 cup. It is a 1/2 cup of oil. And vanilla. Eggs, milk, coconut oil, and vanilla. There's a cup of milk. Okay. I think I have several, right? Okay, so the eggs, the milk, the coconut oil, and the vanilla. Okay, so vanilla it wants, I measured out the other ones, I didn't measure this out. This is 2 teaspoons of vanilla. 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Okay. I hate plastic. When I can't zip it, my myself with my own 2 fingers. All right. Ella's awesome. Okay. So it wants those in there. I'm going to whisk these together. And then I'm going to mix it together in the mixer. Okay. I'm going to put this in the mixer, and I'm going to put this in the bottom of my mixer. That's just how I do it. I'm going to put my liquid in the bottom of my mixer, and then I'm going to slowly add the powder in because I don't want it to go everywhere when I turn it on. Okay. And I don't know if you can see the mixer, but the mixer is right here. Okay. You just basically want to incorporate all your ingredients together. You're not really whipping them, just incorporating them together. Okay, so the liquid goes into the bowl of the mixer. Okay. And then I'm going to put a little bit of the powder down there. Probably about a third of it. Probably about a third of the powder. I'm going to lock my mixer because a lot of people don't lock it and then you end up with messes. It is on low just until it can kind of make a little bit of a batter. And as it's turning, I'm going to slowly dump a little bit more at a time in. Another little tip is when you're making bread, you usually can mix your batter longer, but when you're making a cake, you really don't want to overmix your batter because it's going to have a tight consistency like, okay, so right now it looks like brownie mix. I'll show you just a second, but it wants me to do something else. Okay, so I have that in there. Now I'm going to put the hot coffee and espresso. All right, so I just brewed this over there right before I started the video. So it's hot, it's still hot. I would say it's hottish warm. And it wants 3/4 of a cup. So I'm gonna go to the sink. There's 3/4 of a cup of coffee here. And then it also wants 1 tablespoon of espresso powder, which I do have because I use it for frosting. So 1 tablespoon of espresso powder mixed into the coffee. I'm just going to stir it with one of these since they're already dirty. Okay. And then this is going to go into the batter. And then it's going to mix for 30 seconds to combine everything. And that's it. Okay. You don't want to overmix cake. If you overmix cake, then it has the consistency of bread. It'll get real tight. Am I missing any questions? I wonder if the gluten is affecting my son's asthma. Yes, it more than likely is, and that's what's wrong with Eric. More than likely it is. And the reason why is because his body is having like an allergic reaction, and so it causes inflammation, and so it affects different people in different areas. Like me, when I eat gluten, my whole body goes autoimmune issue. Okay, I eat gluten, my autoimmune says, you need to kill that. And so it'll flag it. And what'll happen is as that gluten travels through my system, down into my intestines, that's where my body says, kill it. And so it starts to attack it in the intestines. And it also attacks my, the villi that are in your intestines. They're like tons of little like fingers that help stuff move along. Well, what happens when the gluten gets attacked in the intestine, it also attacks those fingers. So now you don't have as many or they're damaged. And so that's what will happen when it attacks in your intestines. And then if it goes unchecked, like mine did for many years, it can also start attacking your thyroid because it mistakes your thyroid for an invader. So your body starts to attack itself. So, and I can only tell you that from my own experience. Hey, babe. He's not in here. I need to pull down the blind. There's too much sun. Okay. Because I'm short, I can't reach my blind. Okay. Okay. It's almost in my eyeballs. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, so I would see about, I mean, you don't have to make a doctor's visit, Rosie, to find out. I can tell you, you don't have to make a doctor's visit in order to find out if that's affecting him. What you can do is do it for 3 days, like faithfully do it for 3 days. Cut the gluten out completely. Don't give him any gluten at all and see how he responds. After 3 days, if he's better and he's doing better after 3 days, then you know that there's an issue. Okay, coffee's going into the mix. And I'm going to turn this on. Remember, you're just out adding liquid, so don't turn it up too high at first. All right, so it's on medium right now. Remember, just like 30 seconds. And I'm going to pull out my parchment paper. All right, that's good. I'm going to cut circles for my pan. Again, the oven is already on. The oven is already on. I know I waste a lot of paper doing this, but this is just how I do it. I don't trace it out. I don't do all that. I ain't got time. I just want to get the cake done. And it doesn't matter anyway because you peel it off. The whole point of the parchment is just so it doesn't stick in the pan. Okay, so I make mine. I always do this. I make mine to where it's a little bit bigger than the bottom. I don't know if you can tell, but see how it's kind of come up on the sides a little bit? That is fine because when I take the cake out, I need to be able to peel it off. Okay, so that's the whole point of this. Do not use parchment paper if you're making a cake that you're leaving in the pan, because you can't get the paper off and you'll end up cutting into the paper and people will be eating the paper. It'll be stuck to your cake. So this way you take the cake out and then you just peel the parchment off. The cake comes right out of the pan. Right out of the pan. Super easy cleanup. Super, super easy. And you don't get a broken cake. You will not get a broken cake. When it comes to frosting this thing, I'm just going to smooth the frosting because I'm not busting out the whole cake decorator deal because I haven't done that kind of decorating for a while. So I'm just going to spread that frosting and frost them when it's time. Just another thing, I have my butter for my frosting sitting over here just so that it comes to temperature, to room temperature. All right. It's here. And I threw my spatula too. That's so much for cleaner to go, right? I make sure I throw everything in there. All right, I'll use this big one. Okay. So keep batter out. So you will see it's a little thinner than brownie. It's not quite as thick as a brownie mix. I'm sure you all know what cake batter is supposed to look like. So by looking at it, you couldn't tell that it's gluten-free. Most people can't tell even when they taste it unless you tell them. If you're just using the right flour, you can get away with a lot of recipes that are gluten-free. All right, and I'm just splitting the dough as I'm eyeballing it. It's not measured out. Just splitting it between the two pans. Anna, you should do a video of you doing your banana bread. Are you still here, Anna? If you're still here, you should do a video of your banana bread. That would be fun. Especially if you really do dance in the kitchen when you're making your bread. That would be fun. I don't have that boldness, so I ain't dancing up in here. I ain't been dancing in years. Okay. Put this bowl over here. Okay. Okay. I'm going to spread this out almost to the edge, and then what I'm going to do is I'll just shake the pan to try to like level it out. I don't want to gum up that paper too much. Okay, and that's it. Don't over tap your cake or it will come out dense. I think that's where a lot of people say, oh, I can't bake. It's just little things. It's those stupid little things that cause the dough to do different things. Okay, so don't tap your cake. There are certain recipes that do ask you to tap your cake to get the air bubbles out, but regular chocolate cake especially is not. You want your chocolate cake moist. Okay, into the oven. Oven is at 350. Generally speaking, I put my timer on the first round, and depending on your elevation, you're going to have to adjust that. You should know your oven. I'm going to put it for 28 minutes. 28 minutes. If I need to go longer, I'll go longer. But I always like to stop it at 28 minutes and check it because you cannot uncook something. Okay? You can always leave it longer, but you can't uncook something. So you always want to make sure you stop, you check on it at least 2 to 3 minutes, how long you think it's going to go, just because you never know when your oven's going to decide it wants to run hot today. Okay? Normally, I would put all this away, but it can't be. So I'm just going to push it to the side. And we are going to start the frosting. Now, the frosting is going to get a little bit loud when I'm mixing, so I apologize for that. It will get a little bit loud when I'm mixing the frosting, but I kind of have to do it, right? You got to make the frosting. So I always start my frosting. That's why my butter was already ready, warming up. I always do my frosting as soon as I put my cake in, and then I put my frosting in the refrigerator, and then when the cake is cooled, then I frost it. So usually that's because we want to eat it right away. You don't have to do it that way, but I do. So there's a lot of people, they wait till their cake is completely done, then they make their frosting. I do mine while my cake's in there. Because normally I have other things I have to cook at the same time. So normally I just make my frosting. I'm done with the frosting while the cake's cooking. I'm doing other things. So that's just me. I try to multitask when I'm able, if it works out in my favor. Just put it that way. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the espresso buttercream. So espresso buttercream is asking for 1 cup of butter, which we have here. 1 cup of butter. Again, I only use Kerrygold butter. This is grass-fed butter. Best butter, one of the best butters you can buy. There's a couple of them out there. But this is grass-fed butter. Best place to buy this at is Costco. It is the best price on this, unless you happen to run across a sale. It's not very often, but it's doable. Okay, so there is 1 cup of butter. And then we're going to need 4 cups of powdered sugar, 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, 4 teaspoons of instant espresso, and 2 teaspoons of milk or unsweetened coconut milk. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, I don't use milk. I use heavy cream. And then we have the 4 cups of the powdered sugar. All right, so the powdered sugar is here. I don't know how many cups is in this bag. It's a pound. So it should be at least 2/3 of that bag, I would think. Okay, let's see. Sugar could also be the culprit, Rose. Sugar is a real harmful to the body. So the mix of gluten and sugar together is just like, ooh. Okay, here we go. In a bowl, we're gonna do it in the bowl, not the stand mixer. We are going to beat the butter on high for 1 minute until it is wet. Okay, so I'm going to get my hand mixer out. My hand mixer. And my beaters. And I'm working in my kitchen in the opposite direction. Normally I work on this side over here, not this side right here. But so that I can set the camera up, this is my angle. All right, so this is gonna be loud, but just for you. Hope it's not too bad. All right, creamy butter. Creamy butter. All right, then it wants you to add the confectioner sugar, cover most of your bowl with a kitchen. Oh, that's if you don't like the dust of the thing. Okay, so now it wants me to put the powdered sugar. And we have to have 4 cups of this stuff. 4 cups. Get an actual cup. 4 of these. It always blows my mind how much sugar goes in something. All right, so you see how fluffy that is? And that is made by Lakanto. I guess is how you say it. Sometimes you can find the granulated at Costco. They haven't had it lately. Lately, they've had that other one that I showed you. This one right here, I got a pound of this. So this is a pound. I got this at TJ Maxx Home Goods for $8, which is a deal. If you use this stuff, you know it's a deal. That was 3. I hope that was 3. Okay, there's a scotch more left in here. And I think I'll save it for to put over waffles. Because I make the gluten-free waffles. I think I'll sprinkle them with what's left in here. So $8 is what your frosting takes to make it, plus your butter. Pretty much. That's what your frosting is going to cost to make, $8. If you're counting dollars and cents as far as eating like this, your frosting is probably going to be the bulk of your cost. Okay. And then, okay, so mix that. Okay. And buttercream is so yummy when you make it homemade. Buttercream is the frosting that a good majority of cakes are frosted with. When you go to buy a cake, it's usually buttercream unless you ask for whipped cream icing. So if you've never made frosting before, it might throw you off at first because at first it looks really crumbly. You're like, oh my gosh, there's too much powdered sugar. Keep mixing it. Keep mixing it. Because as you mix it, the butter grabs hold of the sugar and then it starts to make the frosting. Okay, so now you can see that it's together. Okay. So now it's all together. It's not completely smooth like frosting yet. You're still gonna want to mix it some, but you want to add the vanilla and then also the coffee, the espresso. Okay, so in here it's asking for 1 teaspoon of vanilla. That's a tablespoon. You don't want a tablespoon, you want a teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and then 4 teaspoons of the instant powder. So 4 teaspoons of this. Need another one because that one's wet. So 4 teaspoons. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And then it also wants 2 teaspoons of milk. Okay. And I'm going to use heavy cream. And I eyeball it. Measure if you need to measure. The reason I use heavy cream is because it's going to give it that moisture, but then it's also going to fluff. It's going to give it a little fluff. It lets you aerate the frosting a little bit. Heavy cream does. Okay. Almost choked. What do I do with the thing? All right. I don't know what I did with it. So you're going to want to scrape down your bowl so you make sure that you incorporate everything well. Because the sides, it tends to stick on the sides, and then those don't get mixed in very well. So you always want to scrape down your bowl at least once or twice when you're making frosting so that you make sure that you get all of the ingredients off the wall of the bowl and they all get incorporated in. Okay. All right. That's if you get on there. If my babies were here, they would lick these. But they're not here, so they don't get to lick them. Here it is. These ones are not used. If you want to add a twist to your frosting, you can always mix in cream cheese as well. Sometimes I do that if I want my frosting to go farther, or depending on the flavor of cake I'm making at the time. Just depends on what flavor of cake I'm making at the time. All right. So now you can see, I'll show you. So it doesn't look super smooth until you start to smash it, and then look how smooth it is. Watch. See how smooth it is? It's super smooth. Now, if you're going to frost your cake with a tip, then you don't want to put it in the refrigerator. You want to fill your frosting bags like right now, okay? And then just let it sit. As long as your house isn't warm, your frosting can sit at room temperature for a little bit. I don't recommend leaving your frosting cakes out longer than 2 days at room temperature. You should pretty much have eaten them by then. If they have cream cheese frosting, you want to make sure you keep that thing in the refrigerator because the cream cheese will sour and you will get sick. Okay? Just tips. If you're new to the kitchen, those are tips that they're not in the book. You know what I mean? They're not in the book. You make a cake, your family gets sick, you don't know why. It could have been the cake. You left the cake out and it had cream cheese frosting or even cream cheese in the cake. You have to refrigerate that cake. Okay? You can't leave cream cheese out like that. Okay, I'm going to put my mixture away really quick like here. Get it out of the way. Put the book away. Don't need the book anymore. Pretty much I'm just going to clean up. So this is a frosty. In fact, I didn't even taste it. Normally Eric's the taster. He's like the frosting critic. It's good, guys. It's real good. Rose, you would like that because you like that coffee crispy. I don't know if you're still here. You might still be here. So if you don't want to make the cake, you can make a, so I will show you, I have these as well. Say you don't like to bake from scratch, okay? You don't like to bake from scratch. You still can buy a gluten-free cake mix, okay? You're not in control of the items that go into it, but you're still making it gluten-free. It's made with basically the same thing that's in that flour. It has some sugar in it, so this has regular sugar. It doesn't have tons. Let me see on here. Sugars. 14 grams. Is that per serving? I don't get that part. It does have cane sugar. It's made with the same rice flours, tapioca flour as that one. But this, all you're going to do to this one is add your melted butter, your eggs, and your milk. Now, you can swap out the butter for oil, okay? Also, if you like a moisture cake, make this cake just like it says and throw in a cup of sour cream. That will give you a moist cake. Cook it just like it says. Sour cream will help moisten your cake. If you're making a box cake like this and it's chocolate, make it like it says, add a cup of mayonnaise. Your cake will come out like nobody else's cake. It's awesome. That's just a best way to tweak a box cake. You want to take a box cake and make it your own, add a cup of sour cream to white ones, and add a cup of mayonnaise to the chocolate ones. Just a little tip. And they will come out. No one will even know that you used a box. No one will know unless you tell them. Hey, babe, you need to taste my frosting. You need to taste my frosting. Oh, they're here? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Taste it. No sugar. He said, Okay. All right.
Hi, everyone. Gotta go.
Okay, so cake is in the oven. Frosting is made. I can make a cornbread while we're waiting if you guys want to watch, because I do need to make cornbread for dinner. That was what I planned on making. I do my cornbread a little bit different as well. Again, I tweak a lot of things. I don't necessarily follow the recipe for all things. I do follow the ingredient recipe as far as the wet and the dry, but then I tweak other things for that as well. So I will make it because I got to do something while the cake is making. I'm going to cover this and put this in the fridge. And then when I go to take this out, because it can be cold and a little bit stiff, you're going to want to whip it like with one of these or a spoon or whatever. And if you need to, add a little bit more cream just to soften it. Okay, so that's how you do the frosting. And you might have a better way of doing it than me. And all I would like to say is hop on there and make a video and put out your tips of how you like to do things. Put your tips out there. Why am I not seeing any comments? Hi, Miriam. Welcome. Okay, so espresso buttercream. That's what's in the bowl. And I'm putting it in the fridge because the cake is in the oven. All right. I'm going to make cornbread. And I believe I need, so again, I have a box of red milk cornbread that I'm going to be making. This is going to be for our dinner. So I will show you how to make that. I think this one takes milk. Does this one take milk? It does take milk. Milk, oil, and eggs. Milk, oil, and eggs. All right, so I'm going to get my oil. I'm going to get my cast iron skillet. Okay, cast iron skillet. I'm going to oil my cast iron skillet so that my cornbread does not stick. Again, that's olive oil. I use it for just about everything. I have one of these. I love it. Just to smear the oil around the edges of the pan. This is just to keep it from sticking so it comes out easily when you go to lift it out. Okay, so that part's done. It does call for oil, so I'll put the oil over here. Now, cornbread is a little bit different. You don't have to mix your dry and your wet together. You're just going to add this into the bowl because it's a bread. Okay, only with your cakes you want to do the other step because they need to be light and airy. So this is the cornbread mix. And you don't have to use this brand. There's other gluten-free brands. Their consistency is always spot on. So if you're having a hard time converting over from gluten-free from gluten, Bob's is an awesome way to do that. Okay, so this one, they want I use my wooden spoon. 2 eggs, 1.5 cups of milk. So last night I put in the crock pot a beef roast with green chili. And then when it was done, I shredded it all up together to make it kind of like green chili beef. And then we just ate that over white rice. So tonight we will have that beef and some cornbread, and I don't know what else. I haven't decided yet. What am I getting? A cup. 1.5 cups. All right, so here's a half. So I'm going to do 3 of these. 1.5 is 3 halves. So there's 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves. 1.5. And then it wants a 1/2 cup of oil. So I'm saying 1/2 cup. I'm going to put my olive oil. You can get the big jug and just pour it. I just fill this jug up. What this bottle says is not the oil that I use. I bought this jar probably 5 or 6 years ago. And because of the pour spout on it, I just fill it up with my regular olive oil. So there's a 1/2 cup of olive oil. You can use melted butter. You can use whatever oil you like. I don't recommend you using canola oil or vegetable oil. Those oils are toxic. I know they don't tell you that, but they are. They are toxic oils. So if you're using those oils, you might want to check and switch those out for a better oil. Olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, a nice quality sunflower oil. But vegetable oil is not from vegetables. They are chemically made oils that your body doesn't know what to do with. And so what happens is it tries to get rid of it however it can or store it wherever it thinks it should store it. And so a lot of times you just got to clean up some of the stuff in your diet and your body will get better. All right. So see how this is way thicker than cake batter? That's because it's bread. So if you're new to the kitchen, that's the difference between batters. You'll notice that a bread batter is really thick, just like really thick. Okay. When you get to your cake batters, you're going to have more of that, like a little bit runnier than this. Like it would completely fall off the spoon, where this takes a minute. Okay, so now this is where I tweak my cornbread. I got all these cups, so I'm dirtying up. Okay, so I put in my cornbread, I put a cup of frozen corn. Frozen white corn is what I prefer. I actually prefer the frozen white organic corn. I will say this, if you're changing your lifestyle habits and the way you eat, start by cooking at home, right? Start by cooking at home where you know what you're putting into the bowl, and then what comes out of the bowl goes into your mouth, right? So if you just start by cleaning up by eating at home, not eating out, eating at home. And then as you're getting more accustomed to being in the kitchen and making more stuff and doing more stuff, now start to clean up your ingredients. You know what I mean? It's hard to just do it all in one whack. So take steps. The first step, I'm not going to eat out, I'm going to eat at home. Next step, okay, now I'm going to clean up my ingredients. Now when I go to buy certain vegetables, as many as you can, I'm going to buy organic vegetables and not just a canned vegetable. A frozen vegetable is better than a can. Cans are for when you're starving, okay? That was the whole purpose of why they came up with cans. But cans, keep your pantry if you have canned foods in there. Keep it in there in case you need it, emergency comes. But if you're going to start cleaning up your habits of eating, you want to start eating as close to nature as possible. So you want to get it fresh and you want to eat it fresh. If you have to store items, you have a bigger family, buy organic, frozen, and keep those in the freezer. If that's the way that you have to buy groceries and things, there is a way to clean it up. So start with those steps, cleaning those things up. Omitting certain things, swapping out your sugars and using your other good ones. I don't recommend Splenda and all that stuff because those are chemicals. You don't want chemicals. Monk fruit comes from a plant, and erythritol and stevia also come from a plant. So we took many years that we journeyed to cleaning up our food choices. And I would say it evolved over about a 15-year period. I hope other people get there before us, but it took us about 15 years just on our own trying to figure things out. Okay, so that's how I tweak my cornbread. I put 1 can of frozen corn in there, and then I put mine into a cast iron skillet. To me, that is the best way to cook cornbread. You don't change the cooking time. The corn does not affect the cooking time. But again, you want to use the frozen corn. You do not want to use canned corn. Canned corn is already saturated with extra liquid, and it will cause your batter to come out wonky. And it won't cook right as well either. And it doesn't taste as good, in my opinion. All right. And then spread it evenly. I like to leave mine to where it looks a little bit rough on top, so it looks rustic. You know what I mean? Like rusticy on top. I like mine a little bit rough on top. So when it cooks, it's got all those little nooks and crannies on the top. Okay, normally I rinse everything off while I'm moving around, but because I have you on here, I'm going to just continue to talk to you. Okay. So what I like to do on the top of my, so I'm not going to put that in until the cake comes out. I don't want to change the temperature of my cake. If you open the oven when your cake is cooking, you will cause your cake to deflate. It will fall. And that's how you get cakes that have the big dip in them. It's because the temperature changed before the cake was done, and so it causes it to drop. Okay? So the cake has, it's almost done on the first timer, which is 28 minutes is what I set it for. We'll check it and see if it's done or if it needs to go 5 more minutes. Okay? And in fact, they look fantastic. I got a light on and I peeked at it. So more than likely they'll be done right about 28 minutes. So as soon as that timer goes off, I will put in the cornbread. Okay, so let me show you what I like to put on my cornbread when it comes out. And I put this across the whole top of the entire cornbread. It almost works as like a glaze on top of the cornbread. So, okay. I want some of that and slip in my pocket. What? Just slip it in my pocket. I'm teasing. Okay, so they are not done yet. They need to go about another 5 minutes and then I'll check it again. Remember, you can't uncook. You can always cook it longer, but you can't uncook something. Once it's cooked this long, you can't take it back. Okay. So I'm going to take probably about Oh, I don't know, a quarter of a cup, I'm guessing. Almost a quarter of a cup of butter. And then honey. And I don't know, I don't measure, I just do it. I just kind of know how much to do. So I take the butter and I take the honey. I'm gonna kind of look at it, see if I can tell you about approximately how much is in here. I know there's probably about 2 tablespoons. Looks about 2 tablespoons. Okay, and all I do is mix that. So your butter has to be soft, not melted, just soft. It's gonna melt on top of that cornbread. So all you're gonna do is mix this around with whatever utensil you like. This is just what I'm using. Okay, and all you're gonna do is incorporate the honey into the butter. Nothing spectacular or crazy, nothing complicated, just honey and butter. And then when the cornbread comes out, I spread this all over the top of the cornbread as soon as it comes out when it's hot, and then let it cool down a little bit and then eat it. So that's how I do cornbread. Cornbread is yummy. I don't know why that got blurry, but it did. I noticed that. So I still have 2 people here. That is awesome. You guys are hanging in there. Hopefully I didn't bore you to death. You like the icing? That's made with this powdered sugar. It's not sugar, babe. There's no sugar in that cake. And it came from the recipe book you got me. Mm-hmm. He's all excited. He bought me that book for, I think it was for, was it Valentine's Day? I don't remember. It was something. Let me see. I think it was Christmas. But he even wrote in it. He even wrote in it. Because he's got the sweet tooth. So he wanted to make sure he could still get some cake out of his milk. And he knows that I like to cook from scratch. So that's why he got me the what you call it. So who's here? Whoever's here watching, just say hi. And then I can actually engage you while I'm waiting for the cake to finish. Since I don't have anything else to do, I don't want to move around and start cleaning things because then my back will be to the camera. So is it Rose? Rose, are you here? Are you still here? Or is Miriam still here? Is it Chris that's here? Somebody's still here. This says I have 2 viewers. I'm assuming I'm one of them because I'm streaming from my device so I can see the comments. And then somebody else is here. Who's lurking? Who's lurking in the background? Who's watching? Somebody's watching. So just say hi when you pop in, just so I know that I'm not talking to dead air. Miriam's here. Miriam. Okay, so chocolate cake is in the oven. It's almost done. And then as soon as I pull that, I'm going to put the cornbread in. I'm the lurker. Oh, it's okay, girl. You could lurk. I don't know why this is, see how it went pixely? That's kind of weird. The light's on. Kind of weird how it did that. Is that better? Is that more clear? It was clear earlier. Now it looks pixely. I know there's a big lag on here too, because I can tell by where I'm streaming from, there's a really big lag. So I apologize for that. I don't know how to fix all that stuff. All right, time to check it again. Time to check it again. I'll wash my hands because I know I'm touching my face a lot. Touching my face because I'm hot. I'm getting hot in here with the oven on. All right. I know this one is done. Most people poke theirs with a toothpick. That is a great way to tell if your cake is done. I pretty much know how long I had it in there for and how long it cooks for. Okay, so now the cornbread is going in. Cornbread cooks for, I threw it away, didn't I? I did, I threw it away. Hold on. I gotta see the cornbread package, and it says 25 minutes. 25 minutes. Set the timer for 25 minutes. And then the cornbread will be done. Okay, so the cakes are done. If you want, I will check it with a toothpick just to make sure. But all you have to do if you're new to baking is before you take your cake out, I already know mine's done, but before you take your cake out, you want to go right in the middle. You push the toothpick down, you pull the toothpick straight out, and as long as it's not wet, you're going to have some crumbs, and that's okay, but you don't want wet dough. If you have wet dough when you do that, you need to leave it in the oven longer. Don't even take it out. Just leave it in there longer. And then go in increments of 2 minutes, and then check it again. Because again, you can't uncook something. You can't uncook it. If you cook it, it's done that much. Okay. Refrigerator. All right. Well, I think that's going to be the end. I don't know if you want to stick around and wait until the cornbread's done. Do you want to stick around till the cornbread's done, Miriam? If you do, I'll leave you on. If not, then I'm going to end this. And then I'll just post a picture of what the cornbread looks like when it's done. You probably want to know what the cake looks like when it's done, right? The cake has to cool about 15-20 minutes before you can frost that cake. So that takes a little bit of time right there. But by the time that the cornbread's in the oven, it could cool down enough to frost it. Do what? I have one person right now. There was a few, and then they went to do other things. I'm boring.
You're boring.
I'm just teasing.
You talk too much?
I'm boring, guys. I'm boring. I think there's just one. Let me see. Yeah, there's a two, because I'm one of the two that's up there. And that's because I'm streaming here, so I can see the comments without having to go way up there. I'm talking to you.
Oh, were you? Oh, it's the coffee zone.
I know, Jared.
The coffee zone.
You're in my zone. This is my kitchen. Just teasing.
All right.
So just so you know, Carmen, just so you know, if anybody's watching and you've never seen my husband before, this is Eric. You gotta get down. I'm shorter than you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go. This is Eric. This is my husband. You'll hear him in the background sometimes. He's the one that likes to streak in the hallway when I'm live. He likes to be that distraction when I'm live and throw me off to where I mess up what I'm talking about. All right, let me put these items away. And that'll be one task down. One more. And salt and honey. All right, we're all cleaned up other than the eggs. All right. So Miriam, do you just have me playing in the background? If you have me playing in the background, thank you, girl. Thank you so much. That's awesome. It's awesome to know that I'm not alone. How's that? That somebody's out there. Somebody out in YouTube land is listening. Any questions? You're all laughing. Yes, I'm going to get it off. My grandbaby will be born shortly. Oh, I will. Okay, I'm going to end the live then. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations on your grandbaby. That's awesome. If it's your first one, you're going to have a blast. If you've already have others, you already know. You already know it's awesome, right? So congratulations. I'm going to get off of here now then, and I'll post pictures. And then maybe I'll come back on when it's time to frost it, and I'll show the frosting process. Who knows? Alrighty? Thank you, everybody who happened to pop in and watch. I do appreciate you watching the video, even if it just made you laugh. You can laugh at me all you want. It's fine. But I do thank you for popping in here. Thank you. Thank you if you enjoyed it. If you have questions, don't forget to leave them in the comments. That would be awesome. If you pop in and you watch, please give a thumbs up. Please remember to like, to subscribe, and to click the notification bell. And if you feel the need, please share it. If you want to share it with somebody or to a group, if it's helpful to somebody, share it. That would be awesome. So until the next time, I will see y'all later, and we'll see what I do next time in the kitchen. Bye, guys.